The first session of our FDP program. I am profusely elated to take an opportunity to introduce an eminent speaker, Dr. Karan Nathwani, for today's session on Can Speech Intelligibility Enhancement Improves Mental Health. Dr. Karan Nathwani is currently associated with IIT Jammu as Assistant Professor in Electrical Engineering Department. Before joining IIT Jammu, Dr. Karan Nathwani was postdoctoral researcher in France at Telecom Paris Tech and INRIA NC. He was also a research scientist at Oxford University in UK. His area of research includes speech enhancement, speech pathology, intelligibility improvement, speech recognition, underwater signal processing, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. So his phenomenal research would surely help us to gain an insightful knowledge. So now, I humbly request sir to kindly start the session.
Thank you, Mac. Let me share my screen. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Is it full screen?
No, sir.
I believe it should have been. Let me try. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir. Now it's visible.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for a brief introduction about me. As you can see, my talk starts with a kind of a question being imposed to one and all. And this research talk is not only a kind of a presentation for everyone to just come and enjoy, but there is always a kind of a possibility that you can take this research problem as an open challenge, because this is not yet being solved, and it is one of the hypotheses which I'm imposing and presenting in front of everyone. So do let me know if you have any questions, and feel free to stop in between wherever you feel there is a kind of a query you have, or any related things you want to need to know from my presentation. So the title of my talk as suggests, can speech intelligibility enhancement improves mental health of a patient? See, there are two keywords here. The one keyword is speech intelligibility enhancement, and second thing is mental health. Now, as a question presented in front of one, that whether there is a possibility that can we try and do some modification on the way we speak, on the way we present, can it improve the mental health of a patient? So this is again a kind of a question and a hypothesis. Maybe someone who is interested can take this forward as a challenge and then see whether it can be possible or not. So it is quite rightly suggested that the mental health patients are quite intelligible, but there is always a relation we need to find out. Whether there is a relation exists or not, this is what we are going to do the analysis through this presentation. Sometimes we are the mouthpiece for them. This is what we have actually very beautifully observed, that they have some behavioral disturbance, or you can say the behavioral change you may observe in their communication language or the way they present. But it doesn't mean that they are not intelligible. So that is what we need to try and find out through this presentation. And I hope through the course of these two sessions, I may able to convey that can speech intelligibility improves mental health of a patient. The patient here does not mean that the adults, it could be child, it could be the old age, it could be anyone actually. So this holds for all sort of ages, all sort of persons with no age bars. And also there is no gender. Also you will see that the females, as it has been quite understandable that they are have a good intelligible sound, in the sense you may have observed that in most of the places where we need to have a notification or we need to have an announcement, so we may heard the female voice because they are more intelligible because of the pitch. They have a higher pitch. So this also holds for them as well. So there is no age bar, there is no gender inequality here. So you can actually find this relation holds in actually in very general sense. So why do we need to have this speech for mental health? So is there any relation or is there any usage for this? So this slide explains the same thing here, that yes, there is a strong relation. You may see that the speech and language therapy can also help to find the mental health patients. And how? The answer is quite visible here. The useful for diagnosis. For example, at the early stage, if you're able to identify the autism kind of disease or the dementia kind of disease, it is quite possible that they may able to improve. For example, if you ask a 60-year-old your grandfather or grandmother to come and stay with me in foreign, they will say no, because they cannot change their habitat. And this is what is being observed at the later stage. It is quite difficult for them to change their habitat, to bring a change in their life. And that is why the early diagnosis becomes very, very important. And second thing is that, is it useful for therapy? I think the answer is yes. They are quite very well-known way of improving the mental health. For example, the speech disorder, those child or those patients having a speech disorders, with some speech therapy, they are able to stop stammering. They are able to stop doing or making good sound or making good understandable sounds. So it is possible that yes, with the proper speech and language therapy, we can actually improve their mental health. And the third one is the useful for outcome measures. Yes, you may observe this, that when you give such therapies or the early diagnosis, the observation is quite visible there, that yes, the changes you will be able to visible. And their parents, they are the first one who can actually they interact with, so they are able to see the differences. Yes, their child is able to improve, and or the behavioral content, you can see from there that it's quite different, and now it has been improved a lot after the therapy. So it is useful for outcome measures. Now, let me give you some brief background about that, how the speech pathology and mental health are related. So it has been observed that speech pathologist experts, they are able to identify that with two different disorders. One is the communication disorder and another is swallowing disorders. It is quite closely related with the mental health. And how? I'll just give you a brief about it. Like, communication disorders can be of hearing problems. People have the hearing impaired. People could not able to understand. So they have some bands which they are not able to understand. And even in the real noisy environment, it is even become more difficult for them to understand what is being spoken by the other person. Listening is again a very important task, which they are not able to do it properly. Speaking, yes, they have some speaking disorders. So they could not able to make the sound properly, or their voice production has some disorder. So this is again a very important point, that speaking can also be improved, and the communication disorder, it can be one of them. Another thing is understanding, reading, writing, all this comes into that category of communication disorder. And their voice and their fluency means the way they speak, it look like, yeah, they have some problem. It is quite visible from ourselves. Like, yes, we can identify these patients quite easily, because their fluency is not there. Their voice is like it's not continuous. It's a kind of a discrete in nature. Discrete in the sense that they speak something, then there's a pause, then there's again speak something, and there is no connection from one sentence, one word to another word. So there you will see the lot of communication disorders. And the pragmatics is again a very big problem, that they cannot able to identify which language is being spoken or what are the rules of conversions. They cannot the conversations, that's bit difficult for them to identify such disorders. And another thing is the category is like swallowing disorder, which may be known, like, I think most of you are from this background, I'm assuming. So this term, you are very well aware of this, dysphagia. Dysphagia is a term which is quite widely used for the symptoms which has related to the swallowing disorders. Means they cannot able to digest it properly from the mouth to the stomach. It took us like a hell lot of time to take them to go from the mouth to the stomach. So, and this happens to the old age people quite quite often with the old age people. So they cannot have a proper eating, they cannot have a proper drinking, they cannot do the drinking thing, they cannot swallow the things, they have a difficulty in eating. So all this can come into the category of swelling disorder. And there is a strong relation with the mental health, which is I'm going to try to make and try to infer from this background. So mental health conditions are quite widely associated with the communication and swelling disorder. And how this is what I'm going to make it here, with the relationship of the disorder with the mental health. So I'll take one by one the cases. First one is the communication disorder, how it is being related with the mental health. If you have any doubt, please stop me in between. I'll be happy to answer it to the queries. So I just got through few basic literature survey. As I said, this is again on a hypothesis. I'm also started this new chapter into my life, that how I can make a relation between the speech intelligibility and mental health. So I started reading some chapters, reading some books and references. So I got some good references where I got this one, Whitehouse A. This is 2009 paper. They found a differentiation between the childhood communication disorders. So they found that mental health is strongly related with the adults in some form of communication impairments. So they found out that there is a strong correlation, right? If you have some impairment in the communication, for example, the communication disorder, you are not able to speak properly, there is a strong impact on your mental health. And your health is actually goes down significantly. So they have done some literature, they have done some work on this, and maybe you can also go through it. The references are in front of you, so maybe you can note down. And second thing which I found is very interesting is in reference 2 and 3, although they are quite old, but yes, this problem is being there, but it's not being yet analyzed in terms of intelligibility. So this is again a very important point, that they found out that those child who have went for a psychiatric treatment, the psychiatrist found that they have a strong problem with their communication. They have some impairment in the communication. So, and yes, this is where this deficiency is being observed. And that has been the case where you can say there is a strong correlation of communication disorder with the mental health. And another thing you can see that which is quite well known, autism. This autism problem is, I think, every one of us now are aware of. And in J&K, this is again a very, very important point I would like to mention. And in J&K, in Jammu and Kashmir region, very less people are working on this autism, and you do not find such centers here. So again, this is again an open challenge. People may take this problem further, because this is again a lot of attention needs to be paid. So there is some other communication disorder like autism spectrum, attention deficiency, means this children has very less attention like they cannot sit for a while, and then they actually move again here and there, because they have an attention deficit disorder. So they are suffering from this problem. And another thing is behavioral disorder. You can see the change in the behavior. They started become violent at times. They becomes very happy at times. So you can see the transition from their behavior. So you can identify, okay, this person is suffering from, or this child is suffering from some disorder, or then there is a mental health relation. So another category you may see, it's like language and speech disorder, means that there is a lot of like speech therapies people try to give for those who are having this communication disorder. So they can easily identify, yes, from their speech, they do a lot of stammering, they do a lot of pause, they make no connection between their previous word with the next word. So you will find a lot of discontinuity in their fluency. So you can also observe that, yes, they are suffering from communication disorder. Another category belongs to dementia, which is again a very important point. And then I've also started working in this area, which is a very, very useful topic, and everyone should look into these problems. So all this have a strong correlation with the mental health. So that's how we can actually come to this conclusion here, that yes, communication disorder has some impact on the mental health. So when you have disorders, you can actually try to work on those disorders so that your mental health can be improved. So next, I'll take another point is like swelling disorders with the mental health. Like now, previously we talk about that how communication disorders has a relationship with the mental health. Now I would like to talk about the swallowing disorders, like when you're not able to swallow the food and you have a eating difficulty, you have a digestion problem. So how can actually relate with the mental health? So in year 1991, the another very a gentleman named Bazemore, who actually tried to locate this in the psychiatric patients, this problem of dysphagia. And I'm so sorry. So they actually found out that there is a higher rate of dysphagia or aspiration or the choking problem, you can say. These all are quite synonyms because they come together only. So they found that there is a strong correlation with the mental health, and they found that what are the main reasons for dysphagia. They say that, okay, when you take antipsychotic drugs, for example, the antipsychotic means that you are suffering from hallucination, you are suffering from depression. There you actually take all these drugs, it may impact your swelling problems, actually may impact your digestion. So in that case, people have this dysphagia, and there is a strong correlation that they with such drugs they have a side effects on their mental health. So mental health actually goes down significantly when you take such drugs, that is medications. And so it is quite like I would like to strongly recommend here, do not take such drugs without prescription. And because these are kind of drugs which may have a lot of side effects and your mental health actually goes down, what you will not be able to mentally you are not being able to fit, you will be kind of you not be able to actually understand the things, you will be again doing a lot of disconnectivity activities, and then these side effects will be always be there if you take such drugs. So be careful about this. And then that's why I've been claiming here, that I've been emphasizing here, that such dysphagia problems can be very, very lethal. So please be aware of it. Another factors which are strongly associated is like dependency, the presence of comorbid neurological disorders, and mental illness. This also been a part of dysphagia. So dysphagia is strongly related with the mental health. So in a nutshell, I can say that these two disorders, the communication disorders, the swallowing disorders, or you can say dysphagia, can actually impact your mental health. And this is what we have been told here in the literature survey. What has not been told is whether the speech intelligibility can improve these disorders. So this is again a kind of a hypothesis. I'm putting it here in front of everyone, that you can take this as a challenge and try to see whether the intelligibility has some relation with mental health. And the answer is definitely, you will find out after doing some the experimental analysis. So yes, what is the hypothesis we started with? Can speech intelligibility improves the mental health? Now this is a scenario with the answer is in the form of scenarios. The first scenario is when you do no modification, means when you speak very normal as you used to speak in a normal scenarios. Your speech to a person, you are speaking to a person who is mentally retarded. Consider this case, that you are speaking to a person who is mentally retarded, who has some hearing impaired, or you can say having autism, or whatever problem they are suffering from. So they have mental illness, you can say. When you speak them in a normal sense, in a noisy environment, it becomes so difficult for them to understand. Although they are suffering from mental health, if you make it more difficult for them to understand, it is even more harder for them to improve. So means you are trying to make them more and more emphasizing on their mind to understand the speech. So it becomes more difficult for them. So this is a scenario where if you don't do any modification, you are actually making life more difficult for them actually. So what is more important is the scenario 2. What is actually been, this hypothesis is based on this scenario 2, by the way. So where I'm going to have a person who is speaking in a noisy environment, I try to modify the sound in the sense that it becomes more and more intelligible, and after synthesizing, it becomes very pleasant, very understandable to the person who has some mental health problems. So this hypothesis comes with the point that if we modify the sound, if we modify means if I'm not speaking in this normal sense, I'm making my voice conversion. Voice conversion means, I'll give you a very simple scenario. When you speak to your friend in a noisy environment, how do you speak? You speak in a normal sense? No. So you try to put your efforts on your vocal tract and try to modify your some parameters and make that voice normal to Lombard, then it becomes more intelligible. So that way you put pressure on your voice, your vocal efforts. So that is vocal tracts are being efforted by being pressured by your voice, and that sound is become more intelligible than the normal voice. And this is, you have been observed also, this is actually one and all have observed this. If you speak to a friend in a noisy environment, you try to modify your voice, and that is known as Lombard speech. So this process, this second process actually is a Lombard speech conversion. If I'm able to modify my voice, and modify in the sense it becomes more and more intelligible, so that conversion is known as normal to Lombard speech conversion, and I'm assuming this is more and more intelligible to the person whom have some mental health problems. Any doubt till this point? If you have any doubt, just let me know. I hope it is understandable. Is it or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, fine. So now I'm going to move on to the another aspect. Like one keyword is already been started. Like we started with the mental health, that how mental health is related with the communication disorder. Now the another keyword is the speech intelligibility. So people may have some idea, but I'm going to give it in a complete detail because this is what the hypothesis is all about. So if you don't know what is speech intelligibility, then how you are going to modify your voice so that the intelligibility enhancement can impact the mental health. So motivation, like if you look at the large amount of literature, this has actually been the true also, because people are paying very less attention on improving the intelligibility, because what they are more interested is improving the quality of the sound. I'm actually moving in a different sense. I'm more interested in the improving the intelligibility because my task is related with the mental health. So if I'm able to improve the intelligibility, even if the quality is not that good, I'm happy. But because I'm able to improve the mental health. But if the quality is improved and intelligibility is not improved, the mental health is not going to improve. That is for sure. Now I'll give you the difference between what is the quality improvement and what is the intelligibility improvement. For example, if I speak in a noisy environment, what I observed is a noisy speech. If I'm going to remove the noise from the signals, that is known as quality improvement. And what intelligibility does is different. If I speak in this noisy environment, I'm not going to touch the noise. I'm trying to modify my voice here. Rather than touching the noise, I'm trying to modify my voice. Touching the noise, I'm just modifying my voice in the sense that in this noisy environment, it becomes more pleasant, more understandable, and more clear to the person. I'm not touching the noise at all here. So this is the difference. I hope it is clear to one and all here that what is the difference between the quality and intelligibility improvement. Is it clear? Okay, let's move on in this direction. When I say motivation, so this is one motivation, that I want to improve the intelligibility rather than paying attention on quality. When I say this, then I have talk about the noisy environment. So what kind of noisy environments I'm looking at? There are multiple noisy environments I will be interested, but for now, in this case, I'm going to do the analysis on the car noise environment, where you assume that if your person is moving, is a mental health person is moving inside the car and you are talking to him, because there's a car noise inside, the person will not be able to understand. The mental health person will not be able to understand your voice. So this is the hypothesis I'm moving with, or you can say the scenario I'm moving with in this particular talk. You can actually move it to any other sort of noise. This can be scalable to any other noise. I'm going to explain that also in the coming slides. So what is the objective of this talk is to improve the intelligibility under the car noise environment, where I would modify my original sound. The way I produce the sound has been different, because I want to modify the sound in the noisy environment and it becomes more intelligible for that particular noise. So I say, okay, now I modify my sound and then transform into the Lombard speech. And one of the properties of Lombard speech is to shift the formants. For example, when we speak, whatever the characteristics of my sound is, I have my vocal tract, that is my vocal tract, and the air produced by the lungs. So air has associated is like pitch, and my vocal tracts as associated with the formants. So these are the two parameters which I'm more interested in. And moreover, in this case, I'm just interested in my vocal tract because I'm trying to modify from my sound here. So my formants are going to be changed. So I shift the formants, my lower center frequencies, my lower formant center frequencies away from the region of noise. For example, I have a noisy environment. I know this is my car noise. I take this car noise. I see that, okay, what is the characteristics of this car noise, whether it's a stationary, non-stationary. So all these characteristics, I look into it and then try to modify my sound based on these characteristics. And modification means I'll shift my lower formants into the higher formants, into the region away from the noise, and becomes more intelligible because the noise is not there. It is very simple, very, very simple mathematics. Very simple mathematics. I'm just taking my formants of my original speech and seeing where is my noise is, and then moving those my formants away from the noise. Simple. I just add those some delta values so that my new formants becomes more intelligible. This is the approach I'm going to follow, and this is being done by exploiting the traditional linear prediction analysis and overlap and add based synthesis. So I'm going to explain in the coming slides, so don't worry about it. And these are few references if you are interested in. You can have look into it. Now, as I already told, what do you mean by speech intelligibility? Just for sake of making it more clearer, I'm explaining it here again. There is a difference between intelligibility and listening. Can anyone tell what is the difference? What is the difference between the understanding and the listening? Intelligibility is just like an understanding, and listening, anyone? It's very simple. Listening means you are not able to understand, you are just hear it, but you not understand it. It is very simple. So there's a difference. Yeah, please tell me. Anyone? Hello? Anyone want to speak on it?
The comprehension of the message is more important here.
Definitely. Comprehension means you're understanding the speech. Then only you will be able to comprehend. What do you mean by listening in that case?
Listening is listening to the message, the hearing capacity. It's of course, we have to have a clear environment to listen to a message. But comprehension means, are we able to process it and get the right message?
Exactly. You have very rightly suggested that listening is just like you are hearing it, but you are not able to understand it. You are not able to comprehend it. Correct? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, fine. So, just a minute. Yeah. Yeah, so I was talking about the intelligibility. So you have rightly suggested it's actually the comprehension of a message. So if you're able to comprehend it, you are able to understand it. For example, if you can't understand the voice message, you may put your life in danger because some important announcements. For example, you are in let's take this scenario where you are in the mall, and there is a fire broken in some place and you are at very other side of it, and when the announcements are coming, you are not able to understand the announcement, and you may put yourself in a very, very difficult situation, or your life in a very hazardous positions. So this is an emergency situation. So the announcement has to be very clear, very comprehend, so that people are able to understand and then take the action. So this is where I'm talking about the intelligibility is very, very important. And let's suppose if the announcement is not clear to you, you are still busy in shopping and you are busy in the mall, and then the fire broke on, and then it moves on to the nearby to your place, and you can be in a very difficult situation. So think about the situation, that how important the intelligibility improvement is so important in this scenario. Let's take another example, train station. Let's assume that you're talking to your friend and there's a high-speed train passing behind it. Neither you will be able to understand what the other person is speaking, nor your friend will be able to understand what you are speaking. So in that case, your information or the communication is completely not intelligible, and people will and both of the sides will not be able to comprehend the message. I hope you are getting why intelligibility is so important for me. For me is because I'm able to make mental health patients can improve it. For example, hearing impaired. If I'm talking to hearing impaired, if there's a lot of noise background, they are already suffering from hearing impaired. And even with the noisy environment, it becomes more difficult. So I have to improve my voice. I have to modify my voice so that he can actually able to understand or comprehend it. Another take that this is very important, like everyone is doing this is in the COVID situations, like video conferencing. When I talk about the video conferencing, I'm talking about the other side of the person speaking, and he's speaking in the noisy environment. So if I'm the other side of it, I will not be able to understand it properly. So what is more important in that case is to modify your voice, is to try to compensate the noisy environment in such a way that your voice becomes more intelligible to the other side. So this is another very possible application you can think of. The intelligibility is so important. That this is a car noise, which I've already talked about. The noises inside the car could be various. For example, the wind passing from passing to your to the car. It may be the uphill or it may be downhill. So there will be two different sort of noises. There is a road tire contact. So you have powertrain noises. So you have the other sort of noises like engine noise. So there are many sort of noises which you may have to deal with in the car environment. I'm talking about the real-time scenarios. So you don't be confused at why I'm talking about this, because a mental health patient will always be in a real-time scenario. It's not like that he will be in a vacuum and he will be talking to you. No, it's not the case. So he has to be in a real-time scenarios. So this is why I'm putting more emphasis on the different scenarios or different noisy environments. Another, this is very important, where you talk about the factory noise. This is actually more difficult. Why? It's more non-stationary. It's actually the non-stationary in the sense the frequencies, what of the frequencies at a particular time instance are not available in the next time instant. So it becomes more and more difficult to handle, and it is more difficult to handle than the previous cases. So the factory noise is again a very important case. And also another point I would like to mention here is like in the cockpit, in the aeroplane, you have a lot of non-stationary noise. Again, the things is that it's more difficult. Like how you may have also observed, in most of us have gone through flight, have taken the flights there. So you may have seen the announcements. They are not at all clear sometimes. Why? Because the cockpit noise was keep on continuously in the background. Cockpit noise, or there is an aeroplane noise, there's the engine noise. So all this noise becomes more and more irritating. So even for a normal person, it's become so irritating. You can understand how difficult it's for the hearing impaired or mental health patients. This is again a very important point. Parliamentary session, nothing comes out so clear because everyone started speaking at the same time. And this is more difficult case also. Why? The noise here is a babble noise. Babble noise has a similar characteristics as of your speech. And in that case, it has become more difficult. The normal methods, what you can improve, cannot be applied here because they have a similar characteristics as that of a speech signal. The target speech signal, the required speech signal. So again, this is a very important point, that how a person like a normal person is become difficult, how it is more difficult, you can analyze how much is more difficult for a hearing impaired person or a mental retarded person or autism or dementia kind of persons. This I already talked about it, aeroplane or cockpit noise. Now, give you about some literature survey people have done in this case, that how they have come up with the modification. So they have tried to, you might have seen that the text is too small. I'm so sorry for this. You can see that there is an increase in the pitch, F0. That how, if I'm able to improve, for example, I've already told this, the female has a better intelligible sound than the male. Why? Because they have a higher pitch. And that is why you may have observed in the metros, in the place, the female voices are being used in the announcement, even in the railway stations. So that is why if we are able to improve the pitch, we are able to see the change in the intelligibility. And if you decrease the spectral tilt, you can actually have a better intelligibility. People have tried this. A lot of papers have come across with this, how to improve this. And they have also seen that if you improve the increase the length of the sound. For example, it's a very, very beautiful thing comes to my mind now. When I was in France, it was so difficult for me to understand the French. Why? Because I'm not from the native background. So what I used to do, what I understand is like, if he can speak slowly, in the sense that if he can take a time in making me understand, it becomes more intelligible. So if I say, for example, I take one word in the French, bonjour, comment ça va? So like this. Okay, this is new for me at that moment. But when he started speaking in like bonjour, comment ça va? So you see, I have increased the length, increased the time in the gap there. I have increased the pauses there. So I have made my length of 1 second to 1.5 second, and it becomes more intelligible. So this is known as time scale modification. And this is very useful when you are learning a new language. It becomes so important that yes, you need to speak a bit slowly to make other person understand. If you speak like this, comment ça va? Bonjour, comment ça va? Je m'appelle Karan Nathwani. You will not be able to understand it. So this is where this literature survey comes in. Like, okay, if you slow down your speech, I think there is a change that you will be able to understand it properly. And that is where is the literature survey says that. But how it will improve the mental health? Again, this is a hypothesis. I'm assuming it may improve it much better than the normal speech. So take this as a challenge, take this as a point. Maybe some of you may take it in the future to this research problem. Now, I'll coming back to the principle of the formant shifting. Again, as I said, I have to modify my voice. How I'm going to do it? With the formant shifting. As I told, this is how I'm going to modify my voice to become Lombard speech, to make it Lombard speech. So let's start it. It's some mathematics is always there. So I will try to cover as much as possible. And even if you have some doubt, we can have an offline discussion, or you can stop me in between as well. Okay. So let's start with a clean speech. Like I started with a clean speech where I speak it in a very normal way, and I do the windowing. The reason being is when you see, speech is like a continuous, it's just non-stationary. So and when the things are non-stationary, you have to put it in the short format. So window means you take a one length of 25 milliseconds of speech at a time. Then you move on to the next 25 milliseconds, then to the next 25 milliseconds, because your speech is like, let's say 10 seconds. So you take it in a 25 milliseconds. And in that case, you able to make the speech stationary. Means the characteristics of the speech are fixed. They are not going to be changed. Then what I'm going to do is, then I take the LPC modeling. This is an AR modeling. This is an auto-regressive. This here is a machine learning comes in. Like I want to estimate my, this means that I can represent my speech signal in the past P samples. When you say the past P samples, means I say, okay, my S of N, this is my sound, S of N is dependent upon S of N minus P. Means last P samples, it is dependent. And when you say the dependency, you have some coefficients associated. So A is the coefficient of that LP coefficient, which I'm going to estimate by finding out the best A, which actually can give the better representation. And once I found this LP coefficient, what I am going to do is to compute the poles and formants. There's a bit mathematics here. Poles corresponds to the angles, and formants are the ratio of those angles. So then you see that poles and formants are computed. Then I shift my formants to a position where the noise is not present. Just you take it as a very layman person. Okay, I found my formants. I'm just till this point, I found my formants, my own speech formants. Formants are nothing but the vocal tract characteristics. It tells, okay, I have the characteristics something like this. When I say, okay, my characteristics something like this, I will modify these characteristics based on the noisy environment. So I will see where are my noise contents in the particular noise environment I'm talking about. For example, in this case is car noise. When I say, okay, I have a car noise, I will see my characteristics of my car noise. I take the power spectral density. Then I shift my formants away from those noisy environments so that it becomes a better place and it becomes more intelligible. Okay, these are my new formants now. Again, I'll do the reverse process. I'll compute the new poles and LP coefficients. And finally, I will do the some sort of filter masking, because if you do the direct synthesis, you observe that there is some kind of artifact. For example, I'll tell, if I say I am Karan Nathwani, if I don't do this filter masking, it will be coming like this. Karan Nathwani, like this, such sounds will always be there, and this becomes more and more irritating for a person to understand. So if I don't do this filter masking, such sounds, these artifacts will always be there. So then I will do the overlap and based synthesis to get back my modified speech signal. So this is the process of conversion from normal to a modified, and that is known as Lombard speech conversion. This is where we have been able to do it very beautifully, and you won't believe it. We observe a better like modification is works for most of the hearing impaired person. We have tried this on the French when I did this research, and we observed that they are actually quite useful. They are able to improve it. They are able to understand it properly. The hearing impairs. Now I'm going more in details in the maths. Just give you a touch up on it. Any doubt?
Yes. So could you please help me to understand how it is getting connected to the mental health? I'm not getting a picture of how it is actually helping with the mental health factor. Can you please explain on the same?
Okay, fine. So when I'm saying that mental health improvement, I'm talking about the hearing impaired persons. Okay. When I'm I'm taking this scenario actually. When I'm doing nothing. I'm not modifying anything. The sound will not be able to make it clear to that mental health person. And when I'm modifying my sound, the way I'm telling here, like I'm trying to modify my sound using the form and shifting, this will become more clearer, more understandable to the person having a mental health problem. For example, hearing impaired is one of the scenario. Autism, dementia, people have this scenario. So I'm talking about the hearing impaired persons. This is also one of the category of the mental health. So if I'm able to modify my sound, it becomes more understandable to the hearing impaired. If I'm not doing it, it is not clear to him. Am I making sense?
Yeah. Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Any doubt? Anyone else? Maybe can I take a pause? Yep. Any other questions? Yeah. I'm sorry, your voice is not intelligible to me.
Okay, sir. Is it clear now?
Yes, better. You see that now you have the real application also.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, what is the difference between listening and hearing?
Listening and hearing. See, when you say the listening means you are only able to hear it. And actually, I can say they are both synonyms. Listening and intelligible and understanding, there is a difference. Listening and hearing, you can hear it, but you cannot able to understand it. But in understanding, you will hear and you will able to process it. Did you get my point?
Yeah,
Hello,
I guess that
Dr.
they are
Nidhi?
synonyms. Yes, sir. But you have
Sorry,
used...
say it again.
Yes, sir. I guess they are synonyms to each other. But you have used in two different lines in your previous slide. That's why I was asking.
Two different, which one can you, maybe I
In
maybe
the
I'm wrong. You
previous
can
slide,
correct.
sir.
In which one? This
So
one?
in the previous slide, no, sir.
Here?
No, sir. In the previous slides, when you are talking about the communication and other things.
Yes, here. Yeah, this one. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Here.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I was asking. Is there any
Hearing,
difference?
actually, I don't find there is a difference. It's just two words. I put it in a different context. Hearing means you are just hearing. Listening means you are able to listen, but you are not able to comprehend anything. Hearing may be like you may have a kind of some frequency bands. Maybe you are able to hear it properly, but not completely. So maybe there was a slight difference, but I take it as a same thing.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
But if you say understanding, or if you are saying this one, there is a difference here. Understanding means you are able to comprehend it. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Fine.
So this is more about the active and passive listening, right? So when you're actively involved in the listening process, you do the interpretation one, but in the
Yes,
passive one, you just listen, you just hear someone, but will not interpret what they're trying to
exactly.
convey.
I think you are in the understanding mode, not in the hearing mode. I believe that is the case. Correct?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, good. Any other questions? I hope the lecture is, or the presentation is somewhat making you interesting or understanding also. Fine. Let's continue from where we left, in the sense that I talked about this. I hope you understand the scenario. I'm talking about the scenario 2, where I'm assuming if I'm able to modify my sound, it becomes more understandable, more intelligible to the hearing impaired. That is one category of mental health. There are multiple categories you can take into this account, but yes, in this case, I've taken into only the hearing impairs. And now I'm going into a bit more detailing, in the sense that you can have a kind of a touch upon it, where we saw windowing. Windowing, as I said, speech signal is a non-stationary in real time. A non-stationary means the characteristics are keep on changing, and you cannot work at such cases. So what you do, you shut down. You take only the small. You take a small sentence like around 25 millisecond. And it is been proven in the literature that if you take 25 millisecond of the window, there you have the characteristics constant. That means the stationary. So that is why I said windowing the signal. So if you have, let's say, 10 seconds, so I'll take 25, 25, 25, 25 like this, depending upon that how much overlap you want. And then you also need an overlapping window. Overlapping window means when you take one window like this, one window, next window like this, next window like this. So you need an overlapping window. Why? If you don't do that, there will be an artifacts generation. And these are very basic speech phenomena. And I'm not going into more detail, just to give a touch upon it, that why do we need windowing? So windowing is required to make the speech signal stationary. Okay. Now, once I take that window speech, now you see that original signal was S of N. Now I have M also involved here, because this tells how much window length you have taken. Now LPC model says, okay, my sound, my speech signal can be expressed in the past P samples. Here the machine learning comes. How do we estimate A's? So we take the mean square error between the estimated and the original. That is the mean square error loss function I have taken here, which minimizes the error. The one which minimizes the error better, that A is being computed. So the A is my variable. I keep on changing my A. So I'll found the one which is lower error from my past P samples and the estimated one. Okay. So then I compute the poles and formants. Poles, as I said, these are the roots of the LP coefficients, and formants are nothing but the angles. At what angle my sounds are, at what angle, like if you put it in the Z plane, I can find out the angles also. So the poles correspond to the roots, formants correspond to the angles. And now this is where my principle of formant shifting becomes so important. Now I have a formant for each frequencies. I will shift to the delta values. If my formant lies between F1 to F3, my complete range starting from F1 to the F3, if my formant lies in this range, I will shift it by a delta function. This is where your technology, this technology of formant shifting comes into the picture, right? How I'm going to improve my sound, because original F was in the noisy region. I will first check. I'm not sure about it. Sometimes they are not, so you do not change it. This is also possible. If it is in the noisy region, I will shift by delta function. It becomes a new function altogether. So this is my new formant frequencies, and it becomes a new formants. And once I did this, I try to form a new poles. As I already told here, I will form a new poles, and which is given by the production. It's a very simple maths. The magnitude versus the phase. So phase is computed from F hat, that is your new F hat, that is your new shifted formants, and you multiply by the original amplitudes of the poles. Means I'm not changing anything in the amplitude. I'm only changing the phase, because angles are not changed. When angles are changed, the phase is changed. the poles are also going to be changed. Now, as I said, if you do the direct synthesis, the sound will have some artifact. For example, kind of sounds you will see in the production. To avoid this, I try to do the spectral masking. So they say that if you do the direct synthesis, you will have phase incoherence, and these artifacts are because of the phase incoherence. And to avoid this, the original speech amplitude is modified to that of the match with the modified LP spectrum. That is my new LP spectrum, what we have computed here. You can see I'm using this LP spectrum here, A and A hat. So I try to modify A hat with respect to A only in the amplitude sense and try to form a new modified spectrum, and while keeping the same phase. This way we are able to improve the remove the artifacts. Now I'm coming on to the various shapes of the delta function, which actually help us, that this delta functions which actually help us to generate a new spectrum altogether. Am I clear to one and all here, or you want me to spend some more time on this? If it is not clear, just let me know. I'll make it again, explain it again. Okay, fine. Now, what I was saying, that the delta function is dependent upon the noise statistics. For example, if I have a car noise, a car noise has a different statistics, so delta function will change accordingly. If I have the train noise, the delta function is changed different. So this delta function, which I have obtained based on the noise statistics, 3 different delta function which I have obtained. The first one is this, the blue curve. The blue curve says, okay, now I have all my formants, this original one, I shifted by 30%. All. I do not want to put any mind on it. I just shift to 30%. So original, if it is like, let's say x, so it will be x plus 30% of x. So like this. So if it is like 1.3x, something like this. Okay. So all my formants are shifted by 30%. So you can see the most of the change you will observe is 900 hertz. Second one is the red one, that is a smooth modification. So here you can see the formants which are below 85 and above 735, they are not been shifted. So if my formant lie in this range, below this, after this, so I'm not going to change anything. So my original will remain, the new will be the original one. But if it lies in this range, I will shift. For example, if it lies here, somewhere around 100 hertz, it is 85. This one is 85. This is 100. So I will shift by, let's say 50 value I will provide to the original 100. So it will become 150 hertz. So original it was 100, it will shift it to 150 hertz. That is very, very simple mathematics. I'm not doing any rocket science. I'm just putting I'm just finding out these delta function and then shifting my original formants by an amount given by delta values. That is very simple. And if you look at the SM2, that is your smooth modification second, it is even has better smoother function than the red one. Why? Because you see you have bigger the range here. And usually the speech formants are generally in the lower sides. So that is why you see that you have 50 hertz and 685 hertz here. So you generally the formants are generally in the lower range, the speech signals. So you see it is generally in this. So I'm actually increasing the lower side. So I'm making it more aggressive modification. So this is how you modify the sound, modify the formats. Fine. Is it clear to one and all? Is it clear? Or let's move on to the next thing. Now I try to obtain few results. I will play some sounds also for you. It's not a problem. I'll just play some sounds, but in the last session. Here is an objective analysis which I observed that, okay, how my sounds appeared after taking some objective score. So SII stands for Speech Intelligibility Index. This is the intelligibility index. The rest are the quality. So why I did this? Because I want to see when I'm improving the intelligibility, whether my quality retains or not? And answer is yes, this is retained. You can see that when I improve the intelligibility, you can see the SII range from 0 to 1. If it is more higher towards 1, it is more and more intelligible. So I've started with at minus 26. So you see, my method NM stands for no modification. I have done nothing. The scenario which I talked about, no modification. So if you don't do anything, that's the intelligibility is not improved. It is 0.39. And when I'm doing modification, the best one is given by the black curve. This one, black SM2. So you see that there is an significant improvement for intelligibility as well as the quality measures, PESQ, log likelihood ratio. PESQ stands for perceptual evaluation, that is how you perceive it. Weighted spectral slope, log likelihood ratio defines the quality measures actually. Okay. Next, I did the subjective evaluation because it's very important. When you say subjective means I play the sounds to the subjects. Subjects means the persons. And I ask them, okay, you rate me whether this sound is intelligible or not. This is usually the way we do it in the in our research, because we have an objective evaluation, we have a subjective evaluation. So what protocol we followed is the hearing in noise test protocol, and it is quite widely used protocol where we compute the speech reception thresholds for both the sounds for all these categories. NM, RM. RM stands for this one, this RAM modification, this blue curve, and SM, SM2, and there is another I forget to mention, SNR, SM. Like these shapes are going to be changed for different SNRs. It's not going, these are constant for all SNRs, but if I'm going to change it, so it is SNR dependent smooth modification. So you see that they are able to improve that as well. So this is another fifth modification which I have performed in this case. Okay, so I was talking about that speech reception threshold. I will compute and then compare it with all the methods. Okay, I'll tell you the process. Process is very simple. I played the sounds to the subjects who are having hearing impaired. Okay, because the question comes how you are able to improve it for mental health. Here I have done this evaluation for the mental health patient who are having a hearing impaired. So I asked them to listen this sound as many times as much they want at a starting very low SNR, minus 30 dB. This is not at all intelligible. Minus 30 dB is like nothing you will be able to hear. Then they say I can't hear anything. Then I improve the SNR by 28 dB. By 2 dB means, so minus 28. Again, they say nothing they hear. Then I'll improve it till they're able to hear. Then I'll stop there. Then the next sound is going to be presented to them. And then I started from the same level. If they say, yes, I can hear it, I'll reduce the presentation by minus 2 dB. If not, I'll increase the presentation by 2 dB. So like this, I present it, and last 15 SNRs, which we have obtained, I'll take the average. I got the speech reception threshold. This is done for all these possible conditions. This NM, RM, SM, SM2, SNR, SM. Then I take the difference of SRT of NM with respect to all these methods. And if you found that there is a positive number, there is an intelligibility improvement. So you see, these are the numbers, are the relative thresholds. If RT is relative threshold is greater than 1, it means there is an improvement. So you can see the proposed method SM2 has been able to improve it significantly. 14 patients out of 29. So this is done on 29 patients. Those are hearing impaired. So 14 patients out of 29 are able to improve it. So there is a positive number, you see. And lesser this RT less than minus 1, better is that method. So you see that SM2 is the lowest you are observed. Means 4 patients were not able to improve, but 14 patients were able to improve. So this is how you can see the difference. And I have taken it at a different levels also, minus 2, minus 3 range. So that you can see the positive RTs corresponds to the improvement. So that is one important thing is 3 dB. So there are some patients who are able to improve by 3 dB difference. This is significant actually, 4 patients. So you see, this is how you will able to see the improvement for the proposed method. And then also we computed the statistics of the some subjective evaluation where I tried to see all these 29 subjects, what is their mean obtained for all these methods, RM, SM, SM2, SNR, SM. So again, you observe that the proposed method is able to improve significantly. So you have a very positive value of mean. And also you see the deviation is a bit large. This is possible because the artifacts are still there. And maximum value is also very large. So you can, and another thing is the RAM modification, you see there is a negative mean. So there is no improvement at all. So this method is just useless to me. Just for checking purpose, I just put it, but there is of no use. These three methods has been able to improve. And you see that SNR dependent SM is a better compromise between the SM and SM2. So this is again a very useful thing. You see there is a lot of the standard deviation is also very less. Standard deviation means how much variations you are obtaining. The lower the variation, better is the method. So you see the proposed method has held a high mean, but very large standard deviation, means some patients are not been able to improve it. So this SNR SM is a better compromise between the two methods. So this is the limitations of my methods, which we observed, that there is a high standard deviation in the statistical performance, and this we may have to improve it. And in my next presentation, which I'm going to continue, I will explain that how I have improved it in the scenario that standard deviation is also reduced, and artifacts which were observed are also goes down significantly. And another thing is that we may also look into the non-adaptive way, like this is fixed way of doing it. We may have to find an adaptive way of finding out the variable noise characteristics. That this is non-adaptive, but we may have to find an adaptive way of finding out the variable noise characteristics. I can stop for 10 minutes and then we may have some question answers, because this is important, because if I go further, maybe you may miss some content. So I'll request organizers to like if you have some questions, please put up. Yeah. Hello. Yeah, feel free to discuss. You may be wrong, so it's not a problem, but you may have to understand this point, that how intelligibility is so important for mental health improvement. Yeah, please tell me. Anyone? Any questions? Anyone has any questions or?
No, sir.
No. Okay. Is it clear? First, then you may have some questions. Otherwise, there is no point.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So, shall I continue further? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So the limitations is quite visible, that you may see here, like a lot of standard deviation, very high standard deviation you observe for the proposed method SM2, where smoother modification 2. So some patients, you can see some patients were not able to get the further improvement. This is, you can see here also, like some two or some patients are actually, there are some patients which have not been able to improve it. So that is why this SNR SM is like come into the picture, where they can have like a very high RT, and at the same time they are able to reduce the standard deviation. Like you can see that the results are much better than the SM2 in this case. Now, the second method, which is very important here, is smoothing these formants. Like for example, if you have observed that the formants which I shifted, which I actually observed, it may be possible that one frame, like as I talked about, that I'm doing it for window by window. So it is window. I'll take it in the window, one window, next window, I'll then shift it. Next window, I'll shift it. Next window, I'll shift it. Formants. Okay. It may be possible that the first window has been shifted significantly, and second window has not been shifted. In the second window, the formants are not been shifted significantly. Third, again, it's been shifted significantly. Fourth, may not be. So this transition may create a lot of artifacts. And this is why we observed large, you can see here, standard deviation. This is another reason for the high standard deviation. So we observed that, okay, so what is the best way to do this? We can actually smooth the shifting from one frame, like one window to next window, next to next, next to next, like this. We keep on make this the formant shifting smoothed. So this is how we can actually come up with the method known as smooth shifting of the formants. And another thing which we added here is only for the voice segments. I have not talked about this in the previous method, where it may be possible that your window, when one particular segment of speech may be voiced and may be unvoiced. Can anyone know what is voiced and unvoiced? Or should I explain a bit more? What is voiced speech? What is unvoiced speech? Anyone? Do you have some idea about the voice segment, voice speech, unvoiced speech?
So may I?
Yeah, please.
Voice speech may be that you are vocaling you're becoming vocal for your things, and unvoiced means not by vocal but maybe with the gesture you are expressing.
Okay, I'll take one exercise now. Everyone put your hand on your vocal effort. Please try this. And say A. Put your hand on your vocal effort. This one, this place, and say A. Did you see observation of the vibrations?
Yes.
Everyone?
Yes, sir.
Very good. I hope all of you might have seen the vibrations there. Like when you say A, you see that there's a vibration is there. And now I'll ask you to say Sha. Sha. Did you observe any vibrations? No.
Not really. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Are you able to feel it? Just try and do this exercise, please. Yeah, you won't be able to observe any vibration. When you say put your hand here and feel Sha, nothing. So these sounds where your vocal tract is held open, close, open, close, open, close, the vibrations are keep on there. Oscillations started. When this vocal tract is held close, the air is completely flowing. Air is expelled from your lungs, and this is coming and excite your vocal tract. And when this vocal tract is vibrating, the sound produced is known as voice sounds. As rightly suggested by Swati, these sounds are voice sounds. When there is no vocal efforts is being there, like no vibrations you observe in the vocal tract, so you say those sounds are unvoiced sounds. Is it clear? Is it clear? Did you understand
Yes.
your point? This is very useful exercise,
Yes.
actually. Yes, please.
Yes.
Yeah. So now, can you tell me? Now, I just want to play one game now, just for sake of understanding that whether you understand. Can you play one like any other sound which is vibrating other than A? Anyone? This is very simple question, actually. This is very, very, very simple quiz. Yes.
Is it Ra?
Ra is coming again. I'm saying something else. Yeah. A, E, O, U, A, E, I, O, U, vowels. Try this.
Yes.
These are very, very simple exercise. You try this, actually. Put here your finger on your vocal tract and put E. You see the vibrations are started coming. So all your vowels are your voice sounds. You can make a distinction here. Correct? Is it interesting? I hope you understand this point. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good. Now, can we have some other sound which is non-vibrating? Non-vibrating. Your vocal tract is not vibrating at all.
It's a pa.
Pa. Very good. Pa. These are your
remaining from all A, I, O, U, all things means
consonants.
not counted. Yeah, right.
Consonants, correct. Another, there are sounds like inside the consonant, there is a category known as plosives, like P. You may observe that there is a strong pressure you create. Strong pressure you create and then release, like you say P. So these sounds are like plosives. So there are many categories. I'm not going into more detail, but just because I just want to play one small game with you, that so that you may feel that what you are understanding, it is actually what you are teaching, what you are understanding. So it goes hand on hand. So that is what I want to make it more intelligible to you, more understandable to you. So that's why I play this game. So all these consonants are your unvoiced sounds. And sounds like sha, these are your fricatives. There are many categories actually. Do not want to speak more on this. Maybe you confused. So there are many categories. Just in a mota you understand as a layman, all vowels are your voiced, all consonants are your unvoiced. That's simple. Okay, is it clear to all? Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good. Yeah. So now let me move on to the topic again, where we stop here. Okay. So I have mentioned here that only for the voice segment. So now you have understood. I just shift those formants for the voice segments. Means I'm not touching the unvoiced segments. I'm not at all touching. When I saw unvoiced, I'm not shifting those formants. In this case, you see, for my unvoiced segments, my F is going to be only F of F, means the original one. I'm not touching at all. I'm just doing it for the voice segments. And that too, when it lies in this range. This is again two conditions I have changed now. One condition, initially, there is no condition at all. I'm shifting for all the voiced, unvoiced. Now I'm putting it that I'm shifting only for the voice segments and also for those voice segments where it lies in this range. In this range means this. If it lies in this black curve inside this, then only I'm shifting. Otherwise, I'm not going to shift. So these are the two conditions. After these conditions been satisfied, I smooth the formants from one region to the next one, next to the third one, like this. Okay, smoothing means, for example, just take this very layman language. There are three students. Okay, smoothing. I'm just giving a very simple example. A, B, C. A got 100. A got 60 marks. B got 30 marks. C got 50 marks. So I'm actually normalizing it. So 60 will reduced and 30 will improved and 50 will also come into the range of that so that it becomes flat. You understand my point of smoothing here? I mean that A, B, C, three students are there. A got 60 marks, B got 30 marks, C got, let's say, 50 marks. So I will reduce it in a sense. I will find a mean and I will say that, okay, I will reduce the A to this, B to higher, and C to the level so that it can be a flat function. So this is how you smoothing means actually. Did you understand my point? Is it or not? This is very basic example actually.
Yes.
Good. So this is how I actually try to modify my sound, and this smoothing helps to avoid abrupt jumps. This is what I was trying. You have jumped in the first format, window, next window, no jump. So you try to modify, you try to flat the jumps so that when you shift the format from one frame to another, it becomes more flat and the artifacts reduce significantly. Artifacts, as I told you, the sound like sha, ka, ko, ka, like all these sounds comes in the category of artifacts. So these are unvoiced sounds, yes, but you don't need it. When you hear it, it becomes so irritating. Like even the normal person may feel it so irritating. For hearing impaired, it is very, very difficult. So this is how you can actually try to remove those artifacts. Now, leaving unvoiced sounds, like as I said, those consonants If I found in that segment it is a consonant, it's not a vowel. So I say, okay, I'm not going to touch it. I just remain it as it is. This has helped me to preserve the naturalness of the transformed speech. So here is the flow diagram. I think we are left with the 10 minutes. So I'll stop here. I'll continue from here in the next session and give you more in detail about this, and then finish it off the remaining parts, the remaining modifications. So any questions till now? Any questions, any queries, any suggestions you want to make on, or you understood this problem and you are interested to take this forward? You are feel free to discuss with me any suggestions on that. I will be happy to answer them. Hello. I'm actually stopping here because then it will be continuation. So it's better I'll take it in a continuation, and then from the next session from I think around 2:30. So I'll continue this session and then I'll finish it off that time. Okay. Any questions? If you have, please feel free to discuss.
Is there any questions from the participant side? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Karan Nathwani, for such an insightful information. So we will be eagerly waiting for your next session, which is going to start around 2:30 p.m. So I humbly request all the participants to kindly join the next session on time. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.